Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Or if it's your first time, welcome to my channel. My name is Marlene and I talk about eating disorder recovery and everything related to healing the relationship with your own body, with food and with movement. And today we're going to talk about a topic that I am very sure a lot of people can relate to, and that is, what if I tried to recover before and it went wrong? And now I'm afraid, I lost faith in recovery. I don't think recovery is for me. So first of all, that sentence is a sentence that I hear so often from clients, from people I'm talking to online, from people I'm talking to in the clinic that I'm working at. What if I will never be able to accept my healthy body, and what if recovery is just not working for me? So I can speak from experience when I say that sometimes you need a few attempts. And of course, I'm not saying that if this is your first attempt that you will have a relapse. Gosh, no, and I really hope that with the help of my videos you can make sure to not need another attempt. But a lot of people actually had several attempts and maybe went back to their eating disorder for years, and then they tried again and it quote unquote didn't work out again. And so that can be so frustrating, and I truly get it. I actually had 2 recovery attempts, and then I was stuck with my eating disorder for 10 more years because I was so afraid to just not being able to do this again. Because I kind of took my first attempt and was like, well, I couldn't accept my body. I just tried it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. It didn't work for me, and so I went back. And that fear held me back for so many years. And if there's one thing that I could change, that would be that I would start recovery earlier. And so the main reason why so many people are so afraid of giving recovery another try is because they don't understand that they can change little things in recovery. So when I chose my last and full recovery attempt a few years ago, I asked myself, what did I do different last time? And for me, the answer was very easy. I did not allow myself to give recovery enough time. I tried, I gained weight, I panicked, and I went back to my eating disorder. I didn't even give it a year or 2. So I had no idea what would happen if I would not stick with recovery. The other thing is, a lot of people think recovery won't work for them because they tried it before. But my question always is, were you recovered before, or were you in recovery before? Because recovery is basically like the plane ride when you're going on vacation. You're not even there yet. You're not even on vacation. You're not even at your ultimate goal. You're just in the plane. So you would also not say oh, I'm going on vacation and I'm flying there and I'm arriving at the airport and I'm going right back because this doesn't work for me and now I'm never going on vacation again. And I know this metaphor might be a little bit funny because everyone likes to go on vacation, but it's actually a very good metaphor if you think about it. You were not recovered before, so you can't even say this doesn't work for me. You tried recovery, and there is no right way to recover. Recovery has so many different levels to it. For some people, all in is the right approach. Some people have to start a little bit slower. For a lot of people, body image plays a huge role, but they also don't give themselves enough time for the body to heal, for their mindset to heal, for their neural rewiring to happen. So overall, there's just not enough time. And I know you might have tried to stick with it for 1 or 2 years or even longer, and it feels like it still didn't work. That might have been not enough time. The other mistake that some people make is to only focus on eating and challenge their fear foods, which is super important, don't get me wrong. But they might not work on the underlying beliefs, on the underlying issues. They might not even take a look at, what is my belief about a changing body? What are my fears? Maybe what do I feel as a woman? Maybe I'm afraid of being feminine. Maybe I learned that being feminine means being small. Maybe I had some experiences in my life and now I'm afraid of being in a feminine body. Of course, the same thing can apply to other genders. This was just an example. But this is just one of many underlying beliefs that you would have to take a look at. My clients can actually tell you, I can be very annoying about beliefs, taking a look at what is the need behind it, what is the fear behind it. For instance, what is the fear behind gaining weight? Do you fear that you're not getting enough love? Do you feel that people don't see you as disciplined? How do you define being disciplined? Because the discipline could also mean that you stick with recovery. There are thousands of underlying beliefs, and for each person it's different. And so that can play such a big role in a recovery to just take a look at them. Other people might have not listened to their full hunger cues, to their mental hunger, to their physical hunger. A lot of people actually experience extreme hunger, and at the same time they are very, very afraid to listen to it because they are afraid that they will go to the other extreme, that they will lose control, that they will develop another eating disorder. And these fears are absolutely valid and understandable. But I want to say 99% of the times, these things don't happen, because if you look at, for instance, other eating disorders, the main issue normally is also restriction. So if we decide to not restrict mentally and physically, that is a very, very important part of recovery. So you can see, for a lot of people, there's like so many different ways to go. You might want to work with a coach now and you haven't worked with a coach before. You might want to work with a therapist. You might want to try a completely different approach. You might have worked out before and now you decide to fully rest. You might have not looked at underlying issues. There are so many things that go into recovery. And so you might have just not tried the thing that worked for you. So ask yourself, the last time or the last times you tried to recover, what did you do different? A lot of people, for instance, go to clinics, but then they don't really want to do the work, especially when, for instance, their parents send them to a clinic when they are teenagers. They might not even be open to trying recovery. And that's okay. That's nothing that's wrong with you. Of course, you want to make sure that you find the right motivation and that you eventually become open for recovery. But even not being sure about recovery in the beginning is okay. You don't have to believe in full recovery right away to start recovery. In fact, a lot of people don't until they experience full recovery. So a lot of people don't even believe in full recovery their whole recovery long until they are recovered and be like, oh, I actually am fully recovered. And one more side note about full recovery and being fully recovered. We often talk about anti-relapse plans, anti-relapse strategies, and that can be super important. For instance, when I finish working with a client, I'm always going to make sure, okay, we're going to have at least 1 or 2 more calls booked in a couple of months. I just want to check in with you and see how you're doing, to just really make sure that the eating disorder is not sneaking in again. And I will always be in the back corner. You can always reach me. I want to make sure that it's not going to be like, okay, we're done and you can never talk to me again, because that just creates such a weird dynamic. And again, like, I want to make sure that if something comes up, if one of my clients like happens to have a little lapse, it doesn't even have to be a relapse, but they're like, hey, can we take a look at that? Or like, hey, I'm not even sure, was that a little lapse, was that normal? I just want to make sure that you have somebody to talk to reach out to. That's also why I'm offering those single boost sessions, where even if you're not like a steady client of mine, we can have a single boost session and we can take a look at a few things, just so that you have a little bit more motivation in your recovery. But when we talk about those anti-relapse plans, what we oftentimes forget is you want to recover this one time, and however long it takes and however many attempts you had. But you want to recover and not go back. You recover now to be then in the recovered state for the rest of your life. And again, if lapses, relapses, slips happen, that's not a problem at all. I mean, of course, I don't want you to go through that, but I'm saying that doesn't mean that you can't go back to being recovered. But we want to make sure that you understand, like, okay, you're going through this now so that you don't have to do this over and over and over again. This is why you want to stick with recovery. This is why you don't want to go back now, even though it might feel so hard. You might feel like you can't do this anymore. It might feel like your body is changing. You might be in the biggest body that you ever had. And I've been there. I really understand what that feels like. I had so many days and times where I really questioned if I want to continue doing recovery, if it wouldn't be better to go back. But what would have been the point of going back? Living with an eating disorder for my whole life? So I told myself, you have to continue. Every day I took it day by day. I pushed through. I had to continue. And that is the only reason why I'm fully recovered now. It's not some magical trick. It's not because I'm different than anyone else. It is because I pushed through and I didn't give up and I didn't went back to restricting and I didn't make any compromises. I rested, I ate, and I trusted the progress. So in closure, I did have a coach as well that I worked with for a couple of months at the beginning of my recovery. And one time she actually told me, you are at the point of no return. And what I mean by that is you chose recovery. You are doing this now. Don't even let your brain go there. Don't even have it in the back of your mind like, oh, but I know how I could lose weight. I know how it works. Don't even let yourself go there. Remind yourself, point of no return. It's like you're going through a street and then there builds up a wall behind you and you just can't go back. And I do know that some people work with the approach of, oh, you can always go back if it doesn't work for you. I personally am not a fan of that approach because I think that just triggers going back too early and never finding out if it actually works for you or not. Because in fact, recovery can really work for everyone. But just reminding myself that I'm at the point of no return and that going back wasn't even an option was actually really helpful for me. Of course, it felt a little bit pressuring, but it also relieved me because I was like, okay, now I don't have to make the decision every day if I even want to go back or not. I still have to make the decision for recovery and choose action that help me with my recovery, but I don't even have to think about if I want to go back. I even wrote it down my hand. I wrote down, I think, NR for no return. But this is just like a little idea at the end. You can just feel into it and see how that feels for you. But just know that even though you had recovery attempts before, it does not mean that this time it won't work. Even if you just make a slight change, even if you're just older now, that can be the change already. And again, of course, you should also take a look at, okay, what didn't I do last time? Maybe I want to try this. But every single change that you make, it's a possibility for your recovery to go very, very different this way. Albert Einstein actually said the definition of going crazy is to do the same thing over and over and expect the same result. But at the same time, if you turn this around, that means if you only change a little thing, you can expect a different result. So I really hope that was a little boost for you, a little reminder that recovery is still possible for you, no matter how many decades you struggled, or no matter if it quote unquote was only a few weeks or months. However long you've been struggling, I've seen people recover, all ages, all eating disorders. It is really possible. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions, if there's another topic that you would like me to touch on. Of course, you can always reach out if you need a little extra support, either from me or if you just want me to find someone else for you to work with. And I will see you in the next one.